We have a lot to go over in this vlog. Firstly, to start, I am in London, not in an Airbnb. I'm now in a hotel. We were in Paris last week, only for a few days. Taylor lost the first round. I was super jet lagged and honestly very sick the first 2 days that I was there. And then he lost. We took a train to London until we had to Turin for the ATP World Tour Finals, which is a really, really big tennis event for only the top 8 players in the world in Turin, Italy. I'm super excited. Taylor played it 2 years ago, and it's really cool that he is finishing the year, I think, like 6th in the world. So wrapping up the tennis season, very excited for it to be over, at least for a little bit, but I'm really glad that, you know, he was able to make this substantial end of the year event. So we are going to start off this vlog with a story time, actually a few story times that I feel like people have been wanting and waiting for a bit. They're to do with the home rental company of Airbnb, and I think at this point Airbnb PR's team hates to see me coming. There's definitely like a Slack alert that goes off in that office and they're like, oh fuck, Morgan posted again. I don't want to completely blame Airbnb in this. I am not blameless. I should have learned my lesson about this 7 years ago in 2017. I have told that story time before on TikTok. I think if you just type in like Morgs, like my TikTok handle, Airbnb story, it will pop up. It was a very traumatic experience that happened to me at an Airbnb in 2017 when I was on study abroad in Santorini, Greece. And after that happened, I vowed to never stay in an Airbnb again. Why? Because they're not safe. They're just not safe. Especially if you are a solo female traveler or you're traveling in a group of girls, it does not have the same sort of security measures that hotels do. And I'm not saying that hotels are the safest thing in the world. They are absolutely not. Like, you never know who's working at these places. But in general, hotels have a doorman and they have security and they have cameras and it's safer. Okay, so we are going to officially start this story time in Ibiza this summer in July. It's just before my birthday. I am on a girls trip with 4 other girls. I've never been to Ibiza before, and all my friends are like, Morgan, why are you going to Ibiza? You hate EDM, you hate raves, you hate house music. And I'm like, I don't know, I feel like it's something that I should do at least once. I am getting to the point where hangovers actually knock me out for like 4 days, and I think by the time I'm 30, if I drink, I actually may pass away. So like I'm running out of time. I gotta do Ibiza. Ibiza has to happen this summer. We're going to Ibiza. We end up getting this awesome group of girls together. I only really knew one of the girls who was going on the trip. Now I am besties with all of them. So glad it happened. Like, amazing, great group of girls to travel with. We had so much fun. However, shit went down on this trip. So we're 5 girls, and when you have that big of a group that's going to Europe, it just makes sense to get a house instead of getting a hotel. Everybody can be together, you have a kitchen, you have shared area. Obviously it's just better for a group trip, so everyone's like, let's get an Airbnb, we're gonna get a villa in Ibiza, and I'm like, okay, fine, makes sense. You know, it's been a long time since the last thing happened, like probably won't happen again. Get this villa, but we get one in a gated community. It's very safe. They have drones flying over the houses to, you know, like monitor the area. They have private security. It's a whole thing. Seems very, very, very safe. Second night that we were there, we actually had a group of guy friends from New York who were also all in Ibiza. We're hanging out with them. We all go to dinner one night, and this was my first time in Ibiza, so I didn't know this, but dinners happen very, very late there. 11 p.m. is when you are starting dinner, so dinners are wrapping around anywhere between like 1, 2 a.m. And on this night, after dinner, we decide to swing by the house that the boys were staying at. So they also had a separate villa where all of them were staying at. So it's like 2 a.m. As soon as we walk in, there is a bathroom right to the left of the entrance. I am mid-pee and I hear screaming. I'm like, what the fuck is happening? I do a kegel, pull up my dress, whip open the door. There were men actively robbing the house. All the boys take off outside the house to chase the culprits. All the girls in their little heels and Astor Resort dresses like run outside. I am the only person who goes to the kitchen to get a weapon. I'm like, where are the survival skills, ladies? So I run outside. I've got a scissor in one hand, I've got a knife in the other, and I'm like, get behind me. We're hunting the property. I've been doing a Kegel for like 4 minutes straight at this point. No use, the burglars get away. They stole like $5,000 cash and one of the boys' work laptops. So the next night we go to dinner, and because I did not attend any of the clubs or the raves there, every night we would go to dinner, and then at like 2 a.m. when everyone's going out, I would go back to the house and go to sleep. Particular night, thank God, one of my girlfriends, Allie, was not feeling well at dinner, so she's like, I'm going to come home with you after we finish dinner. I'm like, okay, great. We get back to the house sometime between 2 and 3 a.m. and we were staying on opposite sides of the house. So right when we walk in, my bedroom veers off to the left. I walk like 10 feet, my bedroom door, and then she goes to the right. So we're walking back to our respective sleeping boxes, and within seconds there is a loud crash. So I pause, a couple of seconds go by, and I hear Allie call from around the corner. She's like, you okay? And I'm like, unfortunately, that was not me. Both slowly creep backwards, peer around the corner at each other, and just like stare at each other in dead silence for 20 seconds. Our house was very secluded. It was very far away from any neighbors. It was far away from any other houses. There is no possible way that that noise came from any other house but the one that we were in. We realize we are not alone. We sprint to the kitchen for knives. I have seen enough horror movies. You would think I would know better than to subject myself to being the blonde bimbo trope who chases the sound, but nonetheless, that is exactly what we did. This villa was big enough that we all had our own bedrooms, and as we're sort of surveying all the different rooms, we go into my friend Sophie's room, who's staying across the hall from me, and in her bedroom there was a door that led to the outside side yard of the house that was now cracked open a few inches. And now we had been warned about break-ins in Ibiza, inside jobs. A lot of times it's the drivers or the housekeepers, you know, they target specifically American tourists. A lot of the girls that I was with have big social media followings. They will track your live location. They will watch girls' stories, influencers' stories to know when they are not home. So because we had been warned of this, we were so diligent about always locking the doors, always setting the house alarm, always being like so careful about that. But no, Sophie's at the club. She's like raving. She's like, she has no idea what's going on, right? And I text her, I'm like, hey, don't want to freak you out, but any chance that you did not lock the door? And of course she responds, she's like, bitch, I'm freaking out. Like, what do you mean? Like, of course I locked the door. And I'm like, okay. Basically, the door had been cracked open a few inches, and there was a men's cap sitting right next to the door, which we assume now was when they were making their escape, because I think they heard us come home while they were in the house. He was running out and the cap had like flown off or something. Obviously we're freaked out. We lock ourselves in one of the bedrooms. We call our guy friends. We call the private security for the residential area. They come, they check everything out, make sure no one's still in the house. Nobody was, and I guess that's sort of the end of the story. And I said after this, done. Airbnb, done. Literally never again. I'm never saying the Airbnb again. Absolutely not. 2 for 2. Like, I'm done with this. Until 2 days ago, when Taylor and I decided to get an Airbnb here in London instead of a hotel. Now, why would I agree to this given past circumstances? One, we are in Europe for a very long time right now, like a month. It is very mentally and physically taxing being in a hotel for a month straight. You don't get to cook your own meals. It doesn't feel comfortable or homey, no matter how hard I try to make a hotel feel like a home. Ultimately, it's not. I'm still in a hotel. We're in Europe, so a lot of the rooms are very small and uncomfortable. Because he's training, he also needs his team, he needs his coach, he needs his physio. It just makes sense for everybody to all stay together because they're going to and from practice. He has to do the massages, whatever. Logically, it just made sense. So we booked a nice house in Chelsea in London. We take the train from London to Paris, which I would probably never do again. It was a horrible experience because we had so much luggage and just did not think through that. Only take the train if you have like no luggage, because that was really rough. Anyways, we get into the Airbnb, all's good, all's well. Now, I mentioned earlier that I felt really bad when we were in Paris. I was so jet lagged, and you would think after 4 years of traveling that I would be able to figure out jet lag. No, it wiped me out this trip. I didn't sleep on the flight over. I felt horrible. So I've been waking up very consistently at like 3, 4 a.m. I'm going to sleep at like 7 p.m., which is fine. I'm an early bird, but it's not ideal. 7 p.m. I'm in grandma mode. I got my jammies on. I'm knocking out. In typical Morgan fashion, it's 4 a.m. I am wide awake. I'm staring at the ceiling. I'm thinking about how excited I am in London, everything I'm gonna do today. And all of a sudden I hear a beeping noise, and I cock my head and I'm like, the fuck? I'm like, why does that sound familiar? And I keep hearing this beeping noise, and I'm like, what is that? Our bedroom was on the side of the house with the street, and a lot of townhouses, we were staying in a townhouse in Chelsea. These townhouses are old. You can hear everything. The windows are old as fuck. So like anything that's happening on the street, we can hear. I realized that beeping sound is the pin pad of the front door of the Airbnb that we were staying in. I grab my phone and I see that it's 4 a.m. and I'm like, you've got to be fucking kidding me. I reach over and I like clothesline Taylor and I'm like, get up, get up, get up right now. And he's like probably in a dream about League of Legends, so he's like, what's going on? I'm like, there's somebody outside trying to get in the house right now. And he's like, what? Instantly wakes up. So I get up, I creep over to the window to look outside and see what's going on, and realize I can't see anything. I'm blind. I literally have horrible vision. I have to wear contacts every single day. I can't see anything. So I turn to Taylor and I'm like, run downstairs right now and double like padlock, secondary lock. You know, most houses have a double or even a triple lock that, you know, secures the door in case someone is able to get in with a code. So he goes downstairs. I run to my toiletry bag to put in my contacts, because I'm like, if someone enters this house right now, I'm useless. I'm literally bird box. I cannot see 5 feet in front of me. I would be about as helpful as a toddler. So while Taylor's downstairs, maybe possibly in an encounter with our robber, I'm like putting in my contacts, and all I'm thinking is, oh my God, I need to stock up on my contacts, because if we're in a zombie apocalypse and 1-800 contacts can't refill my prescription, like I'm fucked. So I get my contacts in, I go downstairs. Taylor is both hands pressed up against the door. The secondary lock of the Airbnb had been removed. The chain had been literally removed. Why would they do that? I don't know. Of course, we were on the phone with 999, which is the emergency number of England, which, yes, we did have to Google. There were 2 people outside. I did get a video of them. I got a video of their license plate. And as we were on the phone with 999, they drove away. So we're like, well, they just left, and 999's like, okay, and hangs up. And that was that. There was no chance that I was staying there, and now we are checked into a safe hotel. The reason that I am telling this story is because I know Airbnb is very, very popular to travel with. So many of my friends use Airbnb. I just want you guys to be so extra safe and vigilant. I know that there are safe properties. There are hosts who do their best to keep things safe. Please, like, benefit, learn from my trauma. They can be really, really unsafe, especially for women. You never know whose house you're staying in. You never know who has a key. You never know who has the pin pad. You never know who is watching you, who is targeting you, who is watching your social media. The Airbnb was booked under Taylor's name, so maybe it was targeted specifically against him. There has been, I don't know how much I should talk about this. There has been a lot of very targeted crime towards tennis players, robberies, hotel break-ins. Horrible things have happened to players this year that are not public information. But yeah, traveling a lot is great in a lot of ways, but also there is a level of lack of safety around it. One thing I would really recommend is a door lock. So there are these door locks that you can order on Amazon. They look like this, and it's just an extra layer of security that you can put on a hotel door or an Airbnb door. If you're traveling alone especially, please get one of these. I know a lot of flight attendants use them. All of these experiences have sucked so bad. I don't wish them on anyone. I cope with humor. Really, like, these were horrible, like really scary experiences for me. Anyways, there's my makeup. It's so hard to talk and multitask while doing that. But today I'm going to have a very chill day in London. I think I'm gonna go to the Soho area today. I'm still in Chelsea. We booked a hotel in Chelsea because I do really like this area. I love London. I really haven't spent time here in the fall. We're always just here for Wimbledon and stuff in the summer. So I'm very excited to be in London. my personal favorite place to shop in London. There's Harrods and Selfridges, which are both amazing, incredible places to shop at. This is called Liberty in Soho. It's also very popular. So similar brands that you can get other places, but this place has Christmas music playing, and it's just this like gorgeous old building, old hardwood floors. I actually have a Christmas mart on the 4th floor that I just saw a sign for that I haven't been up to, but it's November, so I'm like, it's time.
I know it's hard to see all the things that you could never be.
Here they also have a whole section completely dedicated to textiles, which I guess if you're into quilting or sewing, it's really cool. I am going to go to Notting Hill, which is one of my absolute favorite areas in London. I think like Chelsea, Notting Hill, and the Soho area are my favorite areas to explore in London, and maybe that's because I'm a basic tourist. Notting Hill is really cute. They have this street called Portobello Road that has a bunch of shopping, and they have this little market on the street where you can buy all sorts of little trinkets and knickknacks and vintage cameras and vintage watches, so it's just a cute little area to go explore. And then they also have a Love Shack Fancy and a Reformation and a Free People and lots of really good cafes and coffee shops, so it's a nice area to just spend sort of a solo day walking around. I am so happy to be here, but the weather, and I know it's so dumb to complain about the weather, but historically, pretty much since I was little, this time of year is always very, God, I can't get this earring in. This time of year is always really difficult for me. When I was younger and I was growing up in Minnesota, I really struggled with like seasonal depression and seasonal affective disorder because it would get so cold and dark there. Literally would be 2 weeks where it was just gloomy and there was no sun, and that's very much the weather in Europe right now. I'm just giving up on this earring. Since I've gotten to Europe, I've very much been feeling that sort of way again. I don't think that I could live somewhere that had real seasons again. Actually, as much as I love New York and I love London, this time of year is just so difficult on my mental health, and I know lots of people can probably relate to that. When I was in Minnesota, I had something called a happy lamp, which sort of mimics the sun in some sort of way that wakes you up in the morning and then also kind of gets those like chemicals, the happy chemicals in your brain that sunlight gives you. I wish I had one with me right now. As much as I want to just stay inside and get in bed and be cozy, like that's what this weather does to me. I know the best thing to do is to get outside. It's better for my mental health, so I'm kind of forcing myself out today. I'm putting on all my jewelry right now. I am not one of those people that can sleep in their jewelry. I've always had weird sensory issues, especially with like loud noises and textures and feelings on my body. When I was little, my mom had to special order socks that didn't have the seam in them. You know, in socks, they have that seam above the toe. I could not wear socks that had that seam on them. I would lose it. Like the only time that I really threw insane tantrums when I was little is if my socks didn't feel right on my feet. So she had a special order socks without a seam, and jewelry is sort of my adult version of that. Before I leave the hotel, I will download 3 or 4 podcast episodes depending on how long I'll be out, and then I just walk around and listen to my podcast obsession right now. I posted about this on my story maybe 2 weeks ago, and I have absolutely binged it. I think I'm almost caught up with it already. It's called Normal Gossip, and this is actually very different from the usual podcast that I listen to. Usually I'm only listening to true crime, or I like self-help podcasts like Diary of a CEO. Mel Robbins, obviously I've talked a lot about, but I don't usually listen to comedy podcasts or chit-chatty podcasts. It's not usually my preferred choice, but my friend who actually works at Gucci recommended this to me, and she always has the best recs for like podcasts, books, shows, anything. And basically the show is people submit anonymous gossip stories, and these aren't like bad gossip. It's not like mean. You know, there's different levels of gossip being really like nasty. These are for the most part lighthearted, very funny gossip stories about parents on a children's soccer team or a really bad neighbor, and the host is absolutely hilarious. And then every episode she has a different guest on the podcast with her, and she tells them this story and they have banter about it, and it is so entertaining and so funny, and it's so lighthearted. And I feel like, especially times where I'm feeling like this, like not great mentally, listening to comedy or lighthearted things usually helps me feel better. So if you need a new podcast rec, I'm really obsessed with that one. I think this episode is a great one to start with, especially if you read the Warrior Cat series about clans of cats. I think I read it when I was 10 or 12 years old or something. I was obsessed with this, so this particular episode is very entertaining for me. That and like Guardians of Ga'Hoole I was addicted to. But yeah, if you need a new podcast rec, I definitely recommend listening to that. And then I also wanted to recommend a specific podcast episode that I listened to earlier this week that was, I don't want to say life-changing, but one of the most interesting, insightful, sort of enlightening podcast episodes that I've listened to in a very, very long time. I think a lot of people would benefit from listening to it. The title of it is a little bit misleading. This particular podcast tends to have very sort of clickbaity titles, which doesn't really make sense to me because it doesn't really align with the substance of the podcast. I think interviewing people is so difficult, and I'm so picky about listening to podcasts where they interview people, but I think Stephen Bartlett is so raw about his personal connections to everything that his guests are talking about, and he asks really interesting questions. Most of his episodes I think are great, but this one really stuck out for me. So because it's cold in London, we're gonna wear my fur coat today. The best, most fuzzy faux fur. It's not real fur, don't worry. I usually really love taking public transportation here, love taking the tube. They are on strike right now, which respect. So unfortunately we do have to Uber. Jeans are Naked Vice, which is an Australian brand. I put this so low. I did have a bunch of charms on this that I took off because it was sort of driving me crazy. They were so loud when I would like walk around because I had all of the keychains from all of my travels this summer, and it was just like overloaded and sensory issues. So I took them off for now, but this is my favorite bag because it fits so much stuff. Does it have an SD card?
Yeah.
Can I get it? Oh my god, this is so cute. Once you get to like the top of Portobello Road, if you take a left, then there's this street, and this is my favorite little area in Notting Hill. There is a Dalesford Organic, which if you've watched my other London vlogs, you've definitely seen me eat there. It is my favorite place to go and have like breakfast and a coffee in the summer. And then there's like a La Dre, Max Mara, Kooples. This is where the Love Shack Fancy is. Just a lot of really cute little shops up here. The sun is finally out in London. I feel like this is the first time that I've seen the sun in over a week because it was so gloomy here and so gloomy in Paris. But I'm walking to the Natural History Museum here in London, which I have never been to before. I actually didn't even know that they had a Natural History Museum here. I've only been to the Natural History Museum in New York, which is an awesome museum. Their dinosaur exhibit is like my favorite thing in the world.
Have done?
So my boyfriend bleached his hair.
So I do have good news and bad news.
Okay. Okay, for whatever reason, usually when I do heatless curls, they look so dumb. I look like Einstein. My hair will just stick out until here. I don't know how girls make them look good, but I saw this new one on, see, that's what I'm talking about. When I've seen videos of girls, they slowly pull it out into this like beautiful soft curl.
This is exactly what I expected from this. Well, keep that point. One more and forward and back. And we hold it back right here. Now, give me one more, bend and straighten and hold the legs straight. The last bit we do in this.
Platform 17 for the 1832 Southampton service to Brighton. Fast.
We are going to Borough Market this morning. I'm so excited. I have had a plan to go to Borough Market every single time that I've come to London, and for whatever reason I never make it out. I'm going right when it opens because I know the lines can get long and it can get busy, and I don't feel like dealing with that today, so I'm going early in hopes that it will not be too busy. I have a note in my phone with a list of all the foods that I am determined to try. 10:15, so the market opened about 15 minutes ago, and I was right, it is not very busy. There's like no lines even at the popular places, but I'm doing a little lap to kind of survey everything before I start getting food, and it's way bigger than I thought it was going to be. This place is massive. See this paella place on TikTok, but I think I'm way too full to have a full bowl of paella right now. It's good though. Pretty much everywhere here has samples so you can try stuff. The chocolate and the strawberries is very good. So much chocolate though, like a pound of chocolate here. But it's good. Thank you. I got the creme brulee. Whoa, Jesus, I almost just got hit by a bike. It happens to me like pretty much every day in London though, so I'm not really fazed by it anymore. There's so many noises. I'm getting like overstimulated right now when I'm out in public and the public is doing public things. Like everyone should leave here right now except for me. Is this bite? Okay, this is the truffle mac and cheese. And yes, I am severely lactose intolerant. Mind your business. My food baby is about to be 2-week-old, overdue triplets. Put this like slab of pure cheese on top of it. Kind of want to try one more thing, maybe. But also I might throw up if I do that. Tapped out on Borough Market. Too full. And then I walked like 15 minutes to the Tower of London, which I've also never been to before, but my dad actually recommended that I come here, and unlike me, I did not do any research about this place before I came here. I actually don't even really know what it is, but this is it. So we're gonna go in and find out. Okay, I got my ticket. The Tower of London is a 1,000-year-old castle that protects the crown jewels. It was a secure fortress, a royal palace, and an infamous prison. Kings and queens demonstrated their power from here, shaping society and influencing our world. Okay.
Further down, that's fine.
Oh, thanks. When I was little, I was obsessed with medieval times and the city of Troy and the Trojan horse. I actually would build like little models of castles, and I built a little model of Troy because I don't know, I had a weird obsession with it, so I love stuff like this.
Good afternoon! Good afternoon! And welcome to His Majesty's Royal Palace and Fortress, the Tower of London, a World Heritage Site. My name is Barry. I'm one of 35 yeoman warders, better known as Beefeaters, that has the privilege to work but also to live here at His Majesty's Tower of London.
This is absolutely one of my favorite things that I've done in London, and if you come, definitely do the guided tour. I think they have it for free every hour. The tour guide is not actually a tour guide, it is, oh my god, children. The tour guides are actually government officials who live and work in the Tower of London. They live here with their families. The only way that you can get that position here, and the positions are called Beefeaters, nobody really knows why, is you have to work for the British government for, I believe he said, at least 22 years. So really cool. Felt like a privilege to be learning about this place directly from him. building that I just went into, I was not allowed to take any photos or videos, but they have all of the crowns and the crown jewels, and they have the different robes and the stuff that they use at the coronation ceremonies. Very, very cool. During the tour that we did, we didn't actually go inside any of the buildings. So now I'm gonna go into the different towers and the chapel that they have here, and I just put on like a Renaissance playlist.
Yeah, there's about 1,800 remaining inside this chapel. None of them are buried below the floor. They were all used in 1876 with the Renaissance.
I don't know if you guys can really hear in that clip, but one of the wardens in the chapel was talking about how there are around 1,800 bodies inside of that chapel. Many of those bodies were actually also executed on these grounds, including 3 former queens of England. Basically, it sounds like you could get killed for like literally anything here. And I was like, I'm gonna live in the Renaissance, medieval times, then I think about, you know, execution and chamber pots, and I'm like, maybe not. Here's kind of a view from one of the top of the towers, so you can get a sense of how big it is. That's the river. These are the outer towers, and then you go over here and these are all of the inner tower buildings. And that is some important bridge.